like shooting in the city, and I like shooting with the people there, and I like the realism. The movie lent itself towards a look. It sort of gave itself its own look in the writing. It definitely was going to be a challenge.
Hey, how am I supposed to see what you... Holy God, what do you want?
I'm taking your train.
So shooting in a subway car and the subway station and all those things, I knew they presented certain challenges. And it seemed like it offered some interesting things visually for me to do, like shooting the tunnels and change of lighting in the subway car and things like that. Things I hadn't done yet, so I liked the challenge of it.
Now you take my advice, kid. You serve your 6 months, and then you put in for the motorman.
I shot a movie for Edgar Sherrick, one of the producers, and so he might have put my name in there too and recommended me to Joe Sargent. Joe came from TV mostly, and I came from feature films and commercials, and so he had ways of doing things and wanting to do things a little different than what I was used to. He was different in the sense that he would come in the morning and I'd say, well, what do you want to do today? And he'd say, okay, he'd take out his notebook with the script, and he'd go with his thumb, and he'd thumb through the pages, and he'd go, and scan the pages with his hand, and okay, first shot, what we'll do is over here, we'll do a push in or a pull back or whatever he wanted to do with it. And he sort of made it up as he went along. He didn't like come in with a shot list and know exactly what he wanted to do that way. Sometimes we'd dolly in and tilt down, or tilt up and dolly back, or tilt up and push in, and so I got used to it and got to know what Joe wanted, and so we blended it all in and made it work. Well, it was originally figured to shoot 185. Since I had shot in the subway on French Connection and been a New Yorker and traveled the subways a lot, I thought this would be perfect in anamorphic ratio, which was 2:3:5 to 1. So I took two Panavision cameras, side by side, went down to the subway station, and set the cameras up with the same lenses, and shot at the same time. The same subject, people coming and going and getting in and out of cars, and then going on the trains, inside the cars, and try to shoot wherever I could. And then we screened them the next day, comparison. And it was hands down, everybody said, wow, what a difference. They couldn't believe it. And they said, anamorphic it is.
Hold it right there, cowboy.
Anamorphic does require more light generally. I don't know if it still does, but it did then. The lenses were a little slower, and which added to the challenge. But there was enough light, I knew from having done it before, in the subway stations and the cars to shoot with and get the exposure I needed. What I needed was the extra light level in the shadows, and that's why I did the flashing. And flashing is taking a piece of film and pre-exposing it to light, or exposing it to light, and what it does is it adds an area of a level of density to the shadow area of the film, because before you might have bright highlights and then deep shadows, and you wouldn't see into the shadows. Now you could see into the shadows, and I know that's what I needed to do, is be able to see into the shadows, because I was going to be working at such low levels. So it really helped. I used the existing light as was, and then it's just the added highlights wherever I need them, or backlights, or an eye light, or things like that. What we had to do is every night after we wrapped, we had to break down any lighting we had and clear the track and clear everything out of that area. Well, to go into big lighting setups and then have to do that every day would have been disastrous. So this way we were shooting with existing light, except for a few small lights on stands where we needed them for each shot. So I could actually work with existing light. And the way I solved the tunnel was we changed the bulbs in there because we let the bulbs on just the way they were. I switched them all to 250 watt photofloods, and then which were really bright. But then to kill some of that brightness as far as the reflections in the lens, we sprayed them with what we called streaks and tips. It was a hairspray, and we just spray the center hot spot out of it, and then let the light itself light up the area around it. So I had to use very little light in the tunnels.
Excuse me, mister. Don't you think we should be let in on what's happening?
What's happening, sir, is that you're being held by 4 very dangerous men armed with machine guns.
I always tried to get people I had worked with before and that had experience, and I had experience with, and whose work I liked. And that's who I would try to use all the time. Dick Mingalone was my camera operator, my main camera operator that I remember. And Jack Priestley, who I did know, I used on an extra camera, and Jack shot the second unit. And Jack had been the director of photography on the series Naked City for many years. My camera assistant was the one that worked with me all the time, Tom Priestley Jr., and Gary Muller was his second assistant. So it was my regular focus pulling crew, so I knew their work very well. When I had control over the scenes, we'd set up baby juniors and little inky dinkies and very small lights, and I would usually use them for a highlight or a backlight or a kick light someplace. The command post was built on a stage. That was where Walter Matthau was. That was all built on a stage up in Harlem. Once we turned on the lights, when he had them in, which were fluorescents, I didn't have to do anything the whole time. I'd take a white card and reflect it in the face or something for fill light if I needed it. But other than that, we come in the morning, turn the switch on, and we're ready to shoot. The subway car. We had to convert from normal lighting to the emergency lighting. And I said, how are we going to do that? Because the built-in fluorescent lighting took care of itself, but now we had to go to what was a dimmer lighting. So what I had my gaffer do was take some of the bulbs out of the lights and put in incandescent loom line bulbs, they call them. They were little 20 or 40 watt loom line bulbs. And then to like faces, because there really wasn't, when we switched to that, there wasn't enough light to do faces. And so what we did was we took dentist mirrors and taped them to the back of the poles in the subway car and put little 25 watt mushroom bulbs. The color temperature was way too red. So we turned the voltage up to 180 volts, 140, 180, depending on the scene, and get the brightness out of it like that. So that's how we ended up being able to shoot close-ups and things like that. Because I got a note from Edgar Sherrick, the producer, during the shooting one day, and he said, Owen, he says, with all due respect to the Prince of Darkness, he said, I'm paying Robert Shaw $75,000 to do this movie. Just once, I'd like to see his eyes. So I knew I was doing it right when I got that note.
Do you want to move along?
Excuse me, do you people still execute in this state?
What? Oh, execute. No, not at the moment.
Pity.
It was a great cast. The only one that I actually really got to be very friendly with was Robert Shaw. We built a rig to be like the front cab, which is on a separate little thing that we could move back and forth, and it lights separately and all that. So I got to be stuck in the same place with Shaw every day when we were working like that. And we'd strike up a conversation, and somehow we got on the subject that he loved to play table tennis and that he was a good table tennis player. So I said, oh, that was great because I am pretty good myself. And so we had the prop man, got a table tennis table and set it up on the station in an area where it wouldn't be, it would be out of the way. And every day at lunchtime, Shaw and I would play table tennis. And we had a lot of fun doing that, a lot of fun. Frustrated him, then he couldn't beat me, but we had a lot of fun doing it.
Inspector, that short move they made between 28th Street and 17th Street, why'd they do that?
I don't know.
I've only been back to New York a couple of times. I shot another movie there in the early 80s. That was only 10 years later, or less than 10 years later. I shot Tootsie there. And since then, I really haven't been back to New York much other than to visit family once in a while. So when I saw it now, looking back in the 70s, I said, boy, that's just the way it was. I remember it. I remember the feel of it, the grime, the smoke, the atmosphere. And I thought we really did a good job of making it look like that. And so I was really happy about seeing it after all these years. I gave myself an attaboy when I watched it. When I was first contacted about doing this, I thought, well, this is a movie that I really know I had a lot to do with, the way it came out. And so I was really interested in doing this because I felt like I had more opportunity to contribute to this film visually than most any other. My theory is every shot is a challenge, and no two shots are the same. And you just have to approach them and solve them.
Gesundheit.